morning, everyone. Welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you on WJOP LP Newburyport at FM 96.3 on Channel 9 and on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube channel at ncmhub.org. I am so happy this morning to welcome Ryan Turner, Music Director of the Newburyport Choral Society, and Penny Lazarus, Alto Section Leader, both of them luminaries of the North Shore music scene. And today,
How about that, huh?
they're here to talk about the upcoming holiday concert that will be held on Saturday, December 10th at 7:30 p.m. and December 11th at 2:30 p.m. at Bellville Congregational Church on High Street. Ryan Turner and Penny Lazarus, welcome, and thank you both for taking time to visit the morning show.
Oh, we love it.
Thank you, Mary. Good to be here. Nice to see you.
So happy to have you here. Always an exciting time getting ready for holiday concerts. Well, let's start, if we might, with the concert's title and theme, In Terra Pax. Could you start out by telling us about your choice of theme for this concert?
Well, one of the main pieces on the program is a piece by Gerald Finzi, an English composer, called In Terra Pax, On Earth Peace. And much of the program is this sort of through line of amazing poetry and a call, a sort of imperative for love and peace, which is always important, but especially now.
Especially now,
Yes.
yeah.
And Finzi had been through a lot. He's a wonderful British composer, still being discovered and studied. I know I have a colleague who is there now, has talked with his family and is doing research with all of his work. He was born just before World War I started, and his father died when he was 7 years old. He lost 3 brothers on the Western Front.
Oh, my.
And his beloved composition teacher.
Oh, that's a lot of loss and grief.
Right. And then he served in World War II. So he's seen the worst of the 20th century. And I think that's reflected in his music and his wish for peace.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, it is certainly a significant and timely theme for the concert. And so that's the titular piece, In Terra Pax. There will be another piece, though, by, I always think of John Rutter as the king of Christmas choral music. I have a whole John Rutter station on my Pandora app for Christmas. So tell us also about John Rutter's When Icicles Hang, which will be the other featured piece.
Well, John Rutter in the 1970s received a commission from a friend of his for a secular winter piece, something non-sacred. And so he chose 6 poems from medieval English. There's stuff by Campion, there's stuff by Shakespeare, and some anonymous poems that are all talking about sort of winter scenes or holiday scenes, but they aren't specific necessarily to Christmas. It's a 6-movement work. We're doing 5 of the 6 movements, and it's just fun. It has some fantastic texts. I mean, they paint this wonderful scene of sort of a medieval village getting ready for the holidays, and then there's a drinking song. There's a Shakespeare "Blow Thou Winter Wind." It's a fun orchestration, witty English texts. I think it will really get everyone in the holiday spirit.
Yeah, a lot of the movements remind me of the Christmas songs, holiday songs we already sing, welcoming in the new year, wassail songs,
Yes.
good cheer with food. And in the first movement, the whole chorus, we love this image from Shakespeare. Greasy Joan keels the pot.
Yeah.
And we all learned what keels mean, which comes from the word of the underside of a boat. So she's cleaning, the underside, the outside of the pot. And so all the text is that rich, and it just gives you images of icicles and snow. And I like to think of Renaissance gloves where your fingertips are still showing because you're trying to work outside. And, there's a line in there about the red fingers and the red cheeks, and it's just
It's things we
wonderful.
all relate to.
Yeah.
Some of them make me think of childhood experiences, being outdoors in your snow pants and your nose gets red and starts to run and all that kind of thing. But I think there's an ode to ale.
There is.
Oh, yes.
Bring us in good ale. Yes, there's a chorus that repeats and repeats and repeats. And the thing I think about John Rutter, who is sort of populist, I'd say, as a composer. Many of his arrangements of carols are, predictable and popular. But I think when he's composing music that's not based on a popular carol, like this is freshly, originally composed music, I think there's a inventiveness and a wit that we may not see in his other music.
Well, inventiveness or wit are also things like Peace on Earth that we always need and benefit from. So you may have the audience stomping their feet asking for good ale at the concert.
I think so. We always wish we could have a
Have
cup.
you planned? What do they call it? A flagon?
So it's not your typical Rutter. We're so grateful for Ryan for knowing about this piece. It's not common when you think of Rutter, and it's just great fun.
It has not showed up on my John Rutter station.
No.
So happy to have that discovery. Well, another thing that's very exciting and special about this holiday concert is the inclusion of a world premiere of a commissioned piece. So could you please tell us about how the commissioned work came to be, how you selected Rhina Espaillat's poetry, and how you selected Zanaida Robles to be the composer for this commissioned piece?
Who wants to start? We were both in on this.
That's right.
I know it's a story with different parts, so jump in.
So I'll start, and this is that a few of the members of the chorus approached me probably about a year and a half or 2 years ago and told me about this just beloved poet, Rhina Espaillat, Dominican-American, who's grew up in Brooklyn, was born in the Dominican Republic, grew up in Brooklyn, and then moved to Newburyport, I think some 30 years ago, and this is sort of her adopted new hometown, and introduced me to her poetry, which has this soaring lyricism that immediately sings to you. The minute you start reading it, you hear melodies, you hear music spinning around, and they knew that her 90th birthday was coming up, and that to set some of her poetry to choral music for the Newburyport Choral Society to premiere would be a great idea. I fell in love with the poetry, and we immediately began seeking out a composer that we thought would be a good fit. There's a composer on the West Coast, her name is Zanaida Robles, African-American woman who conducts community choruses, works in a college setting, is also a singer herself, understands the voice, understands lyricism, and is just a vivacious spirit and a brilliant, inventive mind as well. And I knew of her through some colleagues of mine, and then also I've commissioned her to do some other work for my other job at Emmanuel Music as well. So.
Then we sang her arrangement of Lift Every Voice.
Oh, yes.
Just when we were thinking about this,
Exactly.
that you brought her into us first. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyone who went to the spring Newburyport Choral Society concert will remember Zanaida Robles' literally rafter-raising arrangement of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Because it was rousing, doesn't do it justice. So,
And then, Penny, you tell them how you came into the process.
Well, we have to acknowledge the first troublemakers.
every organization needs some.
Is Tony Treadway and Deb Szabo. They both sing with the NCS, and they're both poets themselves. Yes. We know of Deb because she's also a longtime beloved teacher at NHS, who's also the organizer of Poetry Soup. That gets kids involved, unbelievably enough, in poetry. And so they're the ones who came up with the idea. And Ryan was very open right away, which was a really good sign. But then we had to raise money. And that's where I came in, working with the chorus and making sure that the commission could move forward. And it did very, very well. We had generous donors, and we're so grateful. And then it came time to sit at Rhina's kitchen table to select poems from an impossibly large volume of work. So we only could consider a few. If anyone has been in her kitchen, it's as soon as you walk in, the pots of lunch meat come out and cheese and Spanish sherry. And,
If people haven't been to her kitchen before, they'll be seeking it out after they
right,
hear this from you.
exactly. And we just had great fun pouring through poems, and they're already lyrical. We didn't have to really be concerned about that. So choosing was really tough. We sent 10 poems to Ryan and Zanaida, and then they narrowed it down to 3. Although immediately everyone agreed on guidelines, and that's the title of the piece.
Yeah.
And it's just, the poetry is, decide now what's important to you and remember it always. Because if you're going to be a human being, you can't hold on to everything forever.
Yeah.
So think in the moment and be appreciative now.
Also an important message for our times, or any time for that matter. Tell us a little bit, since this is a brand new composition, then world premiere, about the musical styles in Guidelines.
I'd be happy to. So, one of the things Zanaida did is she, via Zoom, sat with Rhina and had Rhina read the poems to her, and recorded her reading those poems, and got the sense of the inflection, the speech rhythm, the mellifluous sound of Rhina's voice. And I think one of the things that Zanaida has done so well has set the poetry in a way that really enhances Rhina's voice. And so she chose some interesting rhythmic structures. The first movement is in 5/4, and it has a clave rhythm. And the second movement has these wonderful loving thirds that are in we have soprano and alto and duet and tenor bass and duet, and there are these like sort of loving duets that happen as we talk about the grandfather, the astronaut, and it's in Spanish. And I should also say that we invited Zanaida to include the Greater Newburyport Children's Chorus, so which is really exciting. So all 3 movements. My vision for this piece was a sort of triptych of Rhina's poetry that also involved the Greater Newburyport Children's Chorus. And I will say that it's been some time since we've had them with us due to the pandemic. In my first time as music director to get the chance to work with them, and I already had a rehearsal with them a couple weeks ago. They sound fantastic. Really excited to have them joining us for this. So they're involved in all 3 movements of this work. And the last movement is a sort of rhythmic, spicy whirlwind of rhythmic challenges and rhythmic excitement, I will say. Again, it has this merengue rhythm to it that just takes off, and if you better, it's kind of white knuckle. If you fall off the track, you're in trouble. It has its challenges.
Just keep going.
But incredibly exciting, and it has this sort of repeated mantra that keeps coming back. Love it all you can.
Yeah.
Love it while you can. And it just sort of embeds itself in one's psyche. And my hope is that by the end of this, we leave Bellville Church with that reminder of how important it is. Love it now, love it while you can.
And a spicy whirlwind. I love that phrase.
I'm sure there's more Penny can add to being in the middle of singing it.
In the middle of singing it. It's been a challenge. It's a challenge. Well, every piece of music to do well is a challenge. But the challenges of this commission is that the poetry is so naturally rhythmic, and Zanaida is so sensitive to it, that it's a whole nother translation to put it down in musical notation. And so in some ways you kind of have to let the musical notation go and just feel it in your body. And as soon as you do that, Zanaida describes these rhythmic patterns as grooves, and I wasn't sure at first what she meant by that, but now I kind of think I do. This is late in coming, but I think now I do. So all these rhythms, you can start to sway back and forth, you can feel it in your body, they're pretty even, and then all of a sudden, Rhina's poetry goes in between the beats.
Yeah.
But as long as you have a sense of where the original groove is, you can relax and just follow the text, and it will work in between the beats. And then you can snap right back into place like a grid. And it happens similarly but differently in each movement. So we're just on the cusp of identifying how that feels without getting too tied into what is a dotted half note and what does it mean to have dotted 8 notes tied across a measure. Right. It's
Yes.
always an approximation. And what if you trust Zanaida's rhythm and trust Rhina's words? It's going to all come together beautifully.
So just join with the spicy whirlwind and follow the rhythm where it takes you is what I'm hearing. It sounds like such an exciting piece. And it is, a wonderful reunion then with the Greater Newburyport Children's Chorus.
Indeed.
And could you talk a little bit more about the role that they will play in this piece? And also, on a different level, what makes this long-term collaboration, now being resumed after our pandemic break, so special, both for the chorus and for the Greater Newburyport community?
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I was there at the very beginning when Gina and her partner at the time just had this idea. They started an after-school music glee club for kids at the Knock. And they just wanted to, Gina's teaches in Haverhill, but she's a resident in Newburyport. And she just wanted to have a place for kids to come and sing.
Great idea.
And so she approached a few of us. And we're all thinking, well, Choral Society's never done anything like this before. How do we approach our conductor, to Gerald Wheel at the time, to present us in the best possible light? And here it turns out he adores kids. And he thought it was a wonderful idea. And that was one of the easiest transitions to make for something that was new. And then that was successful immediately. They always sang a few songs on their own and then would join us in some popular carols. And in fact, the kids were transfixed. They'd wait after their rehearsal was over with us to just hear us adults sing. And you can just feel that we're building generational love of music and of choral music with it. And that became really important. And then it was so successful that Gina then turned it into the Greater Newburyport Children's Chorus.
Wonderful.
And every December, they joined us and until COVID. So now this is, wonderful welcome back to them, and in a very unusual collaboration. I mean, they lead every movement, right?
Yeah.
They do.
The chorus in. They're not just a minor part.
And they're participating in a world premiere,
Right,
which is
right.
kind of
Exactly.
exciting for
Yes.
children's chorus to be able to do. Well, I love the way you described it, Penny, as kind of like it's a generational connection in the present, but it's also a legacy in the making, which is exciting and important. Got to keep the arts alive.
That's right.
Well, and I think what's important too is this idea of cultivating the next generation of choral singers, and the sense of community that is created when we have different generations together. These kids' families coming as well to support and their children, and also being introduced to this rich choral tradition that the Newburyport Choral Society has. And, especially at Christmas time, but at any time, the sound of young voices is good for the soul.
It always feels like it's what the Christmas spirit is, almost by definition.
Yeah, and in addition to their involvement with the Commission Premier Guidelines, they also are doing 3 pieces on their own. So they'll get their own little...
Their own spotlight.
Their own spotlight, exactly. Indeed.
Wonderful.
And they also get the chance to play with the orchestra, to sing with the orchestra. So we've orchestrated... I also commissioned a student at Laungy, or former student at Laungy where I teach, to orchestrate 3 of their pieces, so that they'll get the opportunity to perform with an orchestra, not just with piano, but with our orchestra of 12 strings, harp, oboe, flute, and percussion.
Wonderful. What an extraordinary opportunity for them.
Oh, it really
so
is.
exciting.
And if I can also add one more thing about the sort of generational collaboration that happens in this concert, is in the Finzi piece that we're doing, which has this
Terra Pax.
unique juxtaposition of text from the Gospel of Luke that announces the Nativity, and the angel arrives with poetry by Robert Bridges about this frosty Christmas Eve. When the angel appears, it's a solo soprano, and we're using a student actually that goes to Bradford Christian Academy. Her name is Sarah Hubbard. She's a senior at Bradford Christian Academy. A young woman with a beautiful, appropriately angelic voice that will be singing the role of the angel. So,
Wonderful.
Again, great to bring in youth from the community as well.
Yes. Oh, what a great opportunity, and what a treat for the audience to have an angelic soprano.
She hits that
Can
high
never have
A
too many.
beautifully without
not
any
an easy
thought or
task.
strain.
Well, you've talked about the angelic soprano soloist and the orchestral accompaniment. I think there's another soloist, though, a baritone soloist. Could you tell us about that part?
Yes, in the Finzi, the Robert Bridges poem, which is called Noel, sets up this beautiful sort of winter scene, and it's sung by a baritone soloist. Our baritone is a gentleman named Andrew Paget, who's sung with me at Emmanuel Music, where my other conducting job is, and has sung across the nation and internationally as well. Fine young baritone.
Wonderful. That sounds great. Well, we've created excitement about the concert and given people a sense of the magic that will be forthcoming. Now it's time to talk about how do people get more information and tickets. And please tell us, because I'm sure people are, in past concerts, there have been COVID protocols. So give us the logistical information that people will need.
Okay, so we are still asking people to mask,
Fair enough.
and that's been par for the course for any kind of vocal music.
Yeah.
We just don't want anybody getting sick, at the approach of all of the holidays.
Of course.
But we're not requiring vaccination cards anymore. And as far as buying tickets, it's paperless now. That's one of the things that COVID has brought to so many organizations. So all you have to do is go at the Newburyport Choral Society website, and there'll be a link there to purchase your tickets online. Your name will just be added to a paper roll call that will be there when you enter for the concerts, and they'll just cross off your name, and all will be fine. If you buy your tickets now, they are $30 for adults, $25 for seniors, and then there's a student price. But if you wait to buy them at the door, that price is one price at $35. So buy them now.
So plan ahead. Plan ahead and you'll save. It's a truism about life. So, well, that sounds wonderful. It sounds like a very exciting concert full of magic and generational links and all kinds of wonders and magic. Penny and Ryan, thank you so much for taking time to visit the morning show today and tell us about this wonderful concert coming up and how to get tickets for it. Thank you. I appreciate your taking the time to be here.
You're
Thank you,
welcome. There's just one more minute to say something.
Yes, of course.
I think because of COVID, I think we are all still living it and reacting to it in a way. And I think it's sometimes hard to get back out of the house and do things. But once you do, you're so happy to be surrounded by people you know and your neighbors and your family and listen to music. So if you haven't taken that step out back into community, do it for this concert.
Here, here.
Take the plunge. There's a world outside your door. Yeah. Thank you for adding that, Penny. Thank you so much. Again, it's been wonderful to have you here. Can't wait for the concert.
Thank you,
Take
Mary.
care.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today's show. Everybody be well, take care, and join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. Till then, farewell.